those who were involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Hi there, welcome to Behind the Door. I'm Brian Black, co-host of The Great Rooms, and with me we have a great group of people, starting with creator and co-host Jason Wilson.
Hey, what's going on? Got a Pilsner.
We have our composer, J.M. Scherf.
What's up, guys? I just have water.
Oh, hard stuff.
He is the water boy. Also with us is author M.R. Tapia, but he's not here right now, but hopefully soon. So we'll just save that little round of applause for when he gets here. Also with us is going to be voice actor David Cummings.
Woo! Greetings, salutations, and all that stuff.
I muted him so nobody can hear that. No, I'm just kidding. And also with us is our guest host. I will pass on the torch to you, sir. Dustin Schyler Yoak. He is the creator of multiple things, really. He has the Aphotic Realm magazine and a certain podcast that I actually might be on pretty soon. So I'm kind of excited about that. Hey, don't be mean to me. Dustin, how you doing?
What's up, guys? How's it going? So I do a lot of stuff. I do Aphotic Realm, Geek Men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds. Hopefully we'll have Brian on soon. Really happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Our honor, man.
Yeah, this episode was awesome. I really enjoy the podcast, first of all. I don't listen to it every week when it's dropped. I have 1.5 million things going, but
what?
I do listen. I actually binge a lot of podcasts, so I'll binge a bunch of episodes and then I'll move on to the next one and binge a bunch of episodes. I'll let them stack. I like to do that, especially with this one, because just because how like the story, especially with Raymond, is going. So I like to have that stack up. But it's really awesome having being here and seeing all you guys here. So wow! First of all, David Cummings.
Yeah.
NoSleep podcast. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much. It's I tell you, it's great to be able to be on other podcasts as well. We've been doing NoSleep for almost 8 years now, and I love the opportunity to see new scripts and play new characters. And this one was deeply dark and disturbing, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was definitely one that was, sort of rocked me when I first read it, over a year ago. So I guess, how did you first get into, you were a musician first, and then you started up NoSleep. How did you just naturally jump into the voice acting with those duties, or what made you first jump into voice acting?
I had started kind of getting, I always say get back into voice acting, because back in the 90s, I was doing some stuff with a band. And so I was in studios a lot, and I would be running my mouth, and people would say, hey, you've got a face for radio and a voice that's pretty good. So I always, tried to do a bit of stuff like that. And then it was in the aughts, I guess. I was working as a developer, and I was looking for a bit of a hobby. So I thought I'd try to get back into doing some commercial voiceover stuff. And it was around that time when the idea was put forth to take this relatively new subreddit called NoSleep, where people were posting, scary stories and supposedly real scary stories. And the idea was put forth to make a podcast. And so I thought, well, if you're going to be narrating stories, that's voice acting, that's voiceover stuff. So threw my hat in the ring there, and the people who sort of, came up with the idea, and a lot of people were saying, oh, I'll produce it and I'll engineer it and all this. And nobody was kind of taking the ball. So I took the sort of decided to get the first episode off the ground. So I narrated a story, someone else did another story, and I put out the first episode thinking it would someone else would take over after that. and nobody did. So I just sort of became the de facto producer from the very start. And so, yeah, it was kind of lucked my way into it. It was a bit of serendipity to just get that started. But since then, it's just been a growing process and learning on the job. You think about today, there's a lot of people who don't know what a podcast is today. Now go back 8 years and try to get a podcast off the ground when there's no manuals, there's no training, there's no way of learning how to do it. You just learn by doing. And so that's basically what I did.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely NoSleep is one of those ones that's sort of impacted and sort of spun off and inspired like a bunch of other ones, to put it lightly. So, awesome work there.
Thank you.
And awesome work on this episode. I guess we'll come back to this episode. I wanna first ask Jason, when you received the script from the story from Tapia, what went through your mind? I guess this also could be for Brian. What went through your mind when you first read it?
All right. Sorry about that. I did not hear your question because Brian told me that my hearing aids were causing feedback, so I had to swap them out. So please, one more time. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, no problem. No, I was just asking what went through your mind when you first received Tapia's story as you were reading it for the first time? Just sort of what did you think of it? And just what was your thought process as you read through that for the first time?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, we had done a story in our preseason called Falling. And so it kind of scared me a little bit because I was like, oh gosh, here's another Falling story. But I really, after I found out, for one, that the story was based on something of reality, which was kind of neat. And then Brian had told me that. And then to hear how he made every floor almost like another chapter in the development of the story, and just actually how more of a tragedy it is rather than a horror. It's very sad that the guy made these decisions that ultimately ended up how it did. And as I read it, I found myself getting really hooked on the development of the character himself and finding out what actually made this all happen. And then when you get to the end, you just sit there with your jaw on the floor like, oh my gosh. And instantly after I read it, I knew that we needed to use it. Brian had been amping it up like, well, you got to listen, you got to read this. And I finally just sat down and just read it. And it was awesome. It had to be done. And then we couldn't have had anybody else do it better than David. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones as it unfolds. It's just he has a way of really just sort of really punching you in the gut with his stories. He just is. It's great how he his writing style there. What's that, Brian?
Oh, I just wanted to say that it was kind of neat because some people are submitting us stories that they've already had and they kind of fit with what we were looking at. But what he was doing was we were talking about what he could do for season 1 in terms of a story. And he was telling me that he always wanted to tell this story because it was based off of a real life event where a man had actually fallen off a building and landed, it saved his life. He landed on a porta-john. And I'm sure he's going to tell you about that, but that had made such a big, it left an impression. Yeah. And so he wanted to tell that story, but kind of give it more of a horror twist. Obviously, it's not going to cut it if the guy lands on a porta-john and just kind of, calls it.
And he's just like, oh, I'm all right. Yeah. At the same time,
oh, man, thank God I wore my hard hat.
At the same time, that's how I felt as I'm reading it. Like, I mean, obviously before, you get to more the nitty gritty of the things he did, I still was like hoping like something like his vest would snag on something, like that safety vest would be a callback to, that callback to that safety vest. It's what saved his life. He would snag on some rebar and, he would get a second chance or something, something crazy like that. Just because I'm, one of those weird, hopeful outlook on things.
Even though you were listening to the Gray Rooms, you know that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I know. No, this is, to be fair, this is the first time I read it, a year ago before it was on the Gray Rooms. I didn't know he was going to submit it to the Gray Rooms. And I was just reading it to proof the story for him because we were in the same writing community and stuff like that. So we would share each other's stories and proof and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely that's what I was hoping for. But yeah, it was a great story. But so I guess coming back to you, David, how did you approach that? Like the emotion, obviously you have to consider, how did you portray that? How did you want to portray that? Obviously you did a fantastic job, but what were your thoughts as you read it and how you needed to execute that to sell this performance?
Right. I tend to be fairly method. So I found a building under construction and I started, well, no, not really. Basically it was, as I read it, it was, really getting impacted by how dark it was. And I thought, it's going to be tricky because with a lot of stories of this nature that end in a very dark place or certainly end in death or some sort of tragedy, you can't give everything away at the start. So even though we're meeting a man who is, completely bereft of any sort of hope in his life, and he knows his life now has to end. If I started the story like that, and even though he says he's drunk, he's high on coke and all that stuff. If I started portraying him in that completely dark, desperate place right at the start, then you're kind of tipping the story. And so my thought was to play him relatively kind of flat, just almost empty, not a lot of emotion in his voice, but to convey that in a way, it is kind of matter of fact for him, at least at the start, as he's going up the floor, as he's describing what he's seeing and the drywall and the heaters and so on. And so you want to convey to the audience that maybe this is just a normal day for him and without giving too much away. And so, my approach was to try to convey a little bit of that balance where on one hand, he's this completely hopeless, my life's about to end kind of guy. But at the same time, you want to give him a sense of normalcy. And I really liked how in the story near the start, he describes this resort that's being built. And he kind of gives the sales pitch and the marketing of the resort. And I really like that because it helps set up that kind of a little bit of cynicism there. But, on one hand, he's talking about the hopefulness of what this resort could mean, and he talks about his coworkers arriving to work and all that kind of thing. And so there's this undertext of this new resort being built and all these workers and all the sense of accomplishment and what's going to happen in the future for them, while he knows his life is over. So I kind of dug that aspect of it, and so I guess that kind of again sort of flavored how I approached it.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a geek, so it reminded me, of from the Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze, in Heart of Ice, how his voice is just devoid of emotion, and he knows he's sort of lost everything, and he's just, the hardest thing is stepping to the edge, like that just the way you delivered that line sort of gave me goosebumps. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
but you mentioned the sales pitch, and that's something that I wanted to actually say, awesome job, JM. There's every single part there comes a time in every episode where you just hit home on the episode with the music and the score. And I thought the sales pitch definitely delivered the way you sort of just unfolded that score, and it's just like, oh, here it is. And then there was one particular part that in the cell block episode, and it's just like, oh man, I start getting goosebumps and the hairs raising on my arms, and it's just like, oh man, that's awesome. So every episode you always manage to deliver at some point, but like blow me away. I shouldn't say that. You deliver every episode. Don't get me wrong. But at some point you like blow me away with like, oh, there it was right there. That was awesome. So that was definitely 1 point for me that I thought was particularly great. So
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
So what do you, I know like you oftentimes are given these episodes and with crazy deadlines and stuff like that. So what do you do? Do you just have all this stuff in your back pocket, or are you just that much of a genius that you just whip it out? Oh yeah, no big deal.
I'm going to say he's a genius. I'm just going to right out and tell this man's a machine.
I hate that genius talk, but no, sometimes I get an episode and I have a month, and sometimes I get an episode and I have 7 days, and the next episode coming out. But my day job is I'm a driver. I drive a sanitation truck, so I get to work on it in my head for a lot of hours before I actually hit the studio. So when I hit the studio, I already have an idea of, okay, well, this scene needs something upbeat, maybe strings and piano. This scene is a little darker. This scene is fun. It's, so when I come in, I kind of have an idea of the instrumentation already, and maybe a melody or something. But I kind of, that's my guidance, because I listen to the episode 3, 4, 5 times before I even sit down in the studio. So, nice. And then from there, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's just, I tinker around and I figure it out.
Yeah. No, music is one of those things that's kind of hard to just sort of quantify. It's either there, it's like a feeling. I associate music, especially with feeling. Like, are you feeling it? Like, or you're not, sometimes writing words are associated with feelings, but more so with music, I think, than any other medium for me anyway. If it's just not tickling my fancy, then, it's just not going to move me. It's not moving others, Yeah,
I agree. I mean, as a music guy, that's if the music doesn't hit me, it could ruin the experience. Yeah. So it is a big responsibility, I guess. To be able to take care of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm having a great time. This is Grey Room's is the first project that I ever did like this. Scoring to something that's not video. I mean, I've done a few little indie films, but from the beginning, it was difficult. But I'm at this point now where I'm comfortable, but I try not to get too comfortable. But I know going in that I'll be able to get the work done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely you definitely get the work done, and nothing. You've never. I can definitely say you do a great job, because you never have. I'm kind of picky when it comes to music, because I listen to scores all the time. That's all I pretty much listen to. Like when I'm in the car, when I'm writing and stuff like that. So for me, if it's pulling me out of the story, or if it's pulling me away, it's just like, okay, that's wrong, or it's not delivering, or it's just like something's off there. But you always like sort of match the tone of the story and match the tone of what's happening. And I think that's just great. So again, great job.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's nice to hear.
Between JM and David, one thing I absolutely loved about this was when they would go from the scene, and then David would transition to, when something is 7 floors below and all this, and you would have that. It would be like a boom, like a punch, and it would be a scene changer, and it would be almost like this mist rolling in under the door, just filling in around you as the lights go out, and you're sitting in this blackness, and all you can hear is David's voice echoing. And when I say that JM is a machine, let me tell you something about this gentleman here. He just put together an episode, and I threw him 2 episodes. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry to do this. Let me know if you can't, but I need these by Friday." Two episodes. And he said, "Oh, hey, man, I'll see what I can do." And then he went and he did his homework. He did his research. He said, I sat down and I listened to this and I really got myself involved in the environment of this period. It's a period piece. It's a Russian tale. So he really sat down and he got himself in with the Russian mythology or the history of it, all that kind of stuff, just to really get himself an idea of where to go with it. And the product he sent me, I'm really looking forward to everybody hearing the next story too, because I'll tell you something. That's what it makes JM an exceptionally talented composer, is that what he just said. He has to feel it, because music can ruin everything, just like bad sound design can ruin everything. But he puts his heart and soul into it, and you can hear it, and you can hear the transition, and he definitely feeds off of David. David did such a wonderful job in that story. He made it almost easy to edit. So, I mean, I just got to say, if JM Scherf
going in under the door.
Oh, hold on. We got a new guy. We got a new guy here.
The writer himself.
JM's the man.
Hello?
I'm going to say I love the guy to death.
Thanks, Jason. I love you too.
Out there?
Yes, we are.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was listening to the live stream, and I know I had to shut it off by listening to the previous Behind the Doors. So
There we
it's
go.
like, I got to shut off my phone, or else it's going to be echoey and all kinds of crazy nonsense.
Yeah, you experienced that from Brian, right? Brian's the one that always had that going in the background.
I see someone talking with the yellow hat. I cannot hear them.
What?
Hello. Uh-huh.
That's
I can
great.
hear you, Jason.
I wonder why.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I
not
hear.
sure what's going on my end.
Yeah, I hear Jason.
I hear everybody.
Yeah, I hear everyone now. It froze
Not
for a
sure.
second, but
Sometimes I hear people I'm not supposed to hear.
I think JM, that's you on the screen that I'm seeing right now with the headphones.
Well, I'm JM.
Okay, yeah, you're the one that I can see and hear. I can't hear anybody else.
Uh-oh.
I see all the thumbnails of everybody, but I can't.
Oh, you might have clicked on my window.
Yeah.
Try
Okay.
clicking on me again.
Hello.
Hello.
Try
Hello?
clicking on you.
Like clicking me off. Like I think you can focus a window if you click on it.
Okay. Oh yeah, because now I see Jason.
You can look at.
It's
Still can't hear him though.
yeah. Well, that's good. You don't want to just.
I'm just ruining
It's
this
always
podcast.
something,
Okay,
guys.
bye guys. I'll see you guys. Have a good night.
Hey,
Sorry for ruining things. I'm gonna go to
man,
my 8
great work.
stories. Yeah, thank you. I wonder if I try rejoining.
Yeah,
Is he-
Yes.
I would
Can he hear
Okay.
you, JM?
Love you guys.
peace.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the offer.
a little bit of a hiccup there.
That was funny. Hey, right, real quick. I just wanted to say one of the craziest things. My mom does not listen to horror. She doesn't. She's not real into any of that, but she listens to the show. And I was sitting with my wife. We were sitting in the living room with my mom. She's listening to Ground Level for the first time, and listening to David's voice and listening to the story. And this was before the scene where, he goes on the honeymoon cruise and everything. She just bursts into tears. I memean, she is crying. She's so distraught. She feels so bad for this person because she thinks he's a drug addict and he's losing the battle and he's going to kill himself. And she goes, he's going to kill himself, Brian. And she's like, oh, sad. And I thought I was going to have to stop the show, and just be like, oh, you can't handle this. I'm sorry, Mom, though. But
It gets worse, Mom.
Well, again, that's a testament of David's delivery and JM's scoring, man. That's a testament of them, though, like that everything coming together. I think that, again, it was really easy to edit because David's such a professional It was easy to just chop it and move it around and make it like the cadence happen, and then I hand it off to JM, and JM just made it golden. And yeah, so actually, when you text me that, I said, MR is probably going to be like, oh, crap, I made somebody's mom cry.
Yeah, I told him. Now I can hear everybody. I hope everybody can hear me.
Hey,
I told Brian, I was like, man, please apologize to your mother, dude. I feel so bad. I can't remember what exactly I said, but I think I mentioned going to confession and apologizing to any higher power above us to make it right.
No, it's fine. I mean, you know what? After you got to the end of it, she didn't care. She's like, good, he's there, you know.
Yeah, he kind of sucked by the end of the story. But yeah, thank you to everybody who had a part to do with the production. I was kind of worried because when Brian sent me the invite to write a story, most of my stories, the guy to the antagonist / protagonist doesn't die at the end. That way it just kind of leaves it open for the reader. I was like, man, I got to kill somebody. It's like, shit. So, but I had that story in mind because of the whole background of the inspiration. But so, yeah, I hadn't heard anything besides, I think, falling. And that was after I submitted, if I'm correct. And after that, I started getting worried. I was like, man, my style is a little different to be actually, you know, performed and produced to the level that you guys do. And I was, up until I heard it, until Jason sent me the link for it, I was worried. I was like, man, this might be the weakest story of the entire season. And I felt bad, but man, you guys knocked it out of the park. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys, David, Jam, Jason, Brian, everybody. So
wow, it's a great story.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, so, thank you.
It was a great story. It was like the most maybe like real story I think that we've had this season. It's like it's not supernatural. There's no craziness going on. It's something that you might hear in the news,
right?
So I think that's why it hits so hard, and just the way it was written and the way that David voiced it. It was it really takes you. It's more of a personal story,
right?
And Dave, you did amazing with the way I heard his voice the entire time. It's, he's getting leading up to jumping at the beginning, and then he does make the leap. And so the way I always heard his voice was just, kind of deadpan, emotionless, like at a loss of having lost everything.
Right.
In a very shitty way.
That's I don't know. David
I forget if I'm supposed to not cuss on here, so I apologize.
We put a little E on there, and it's fine,
Okay.
I mean, I'll get it later, and I'll put like little squeaks and honk over top of it, so don't even worry about it.
Some old clown horns. Honk. I should have worn my parental advisory T-shirt. And apparently, with the asterisk that says any mothers listening, I apologize, and I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, my mom does listen to this, so
I'm sorry, Brian. Mom, I don't know your name, but I apologize. I'm glad you didn't feel so bad at the very end, though.
See, my goal in life is to make mothers cry, so I feel
great. Another mom cried. Check.
Another hash mark on the wall.
All right.
About 7 more. How many trees going to be laying on the ground? I'm chopping away at it one time.
But that is a testament, I think. I mean, how many horror stories really make the person cry at the end? Because when you think of horror, you think, "Oh man, that made me feel unclean," or "Oh, that made me feel this or that." This situation, you do. I mean, I think most people generally don't want a guy like this just to take the jump. I mean, he's not a good person, but at the same time, you understand the events, you see how it all progressed, and it was all kind of a big, huge accident. So
that's why I called it a tragedy, man. I felt it more a tragedy than a horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my son,
definitely tragedy.
I let my son listen to it. He's going on 14, and he kept getting more excited because the way I tried writing it was in between each floor, the ground levels rising up that much faster. So every story, every narrative in between floors, I tried making them shorter. That way it just kept moving faster and faster with the actual fall. And he kept getting excited. So it made me feel confident as well. And then at the end, he's like, man, but why did he kill himself? And I felt bad, and I had him envision. I was like, well, just imagine going through all this, she's pregnant, you accidentally kill her, and then your wife over here, and you're just freaking out and you're done. What's going to happen if you stay alive? And then anxiety and everything takes over. You never know. Some people just
The guy was obviously not in his right mind. He was on drugs, and he was definitely desperate, and he just killed the 2 women in his life. I mean, when push comes to shove, the dominoes fell. It was a great story, man. I absolutely, not only did I love reading it, but eventually I'm going to tell you guys how it was when I found out that David was narrating it. And it's when I got to hear it and then to actually put the sound to it and then hand it off to JM. Because, when I produce something, I usually space everything out. I have a tempo in my head. I'm a drummer, so I always think of, in beats and rhythms. That's how I think when I'm doing these stories. And if you listen, you may notice that it's either in the 4s, 8s, something. So everything's very rhythmic. And so when I cut it down and I get it done, I send it over to JM, and all it is just sound effects and David, and that's it. And then I get it back from JM. So all in all, from the beginning to end, your story was phenomenal. You did a great job, and don't hesitate to drop some more in the box, man.
Yeah,
that's some really good writing, man.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Drop them from 8 floors up.
Sorry,
puns.
Yeah, I was hoping to submit for season 2, but at the moment, life's very chaotic, and one of the main things that's going on is. I'm getting married in 4 months.
Hey,
and I'm one of the biggest. Thank you. And I'm one of the biggest procrastinators in the world. So this whole weekend, especially today, we've been going balls to the wall. My fiance actually volunteered to do the grocery shopping on her own, so I could do you guys for a while. So, but yeah, it's been chaotic, and I'm hoping to get something written for season 3 once those submissions open. But I'm excited to listen to season 2. This season has been fun. The Raymond subplot and all the stories that have been submitted and given out to the world. It's been amazing. It's been fun to watch it progress, and I can't wait to see where you guys go with this.
Well, thank you, man. We're hoping to one day be able to. My ultimate goal is to be able to one day shake David's hand. And I hear he's a whiskey/bourbon fan, as am I. So hopefully one day I'll be able to thank the man who inspired me to even take the leap, so to speak, and become a podcaster, and thank him for everything in person, and then share a nice, good, stiff one with him. Nice, good, stiff drink. So that's my ultimate goal.
Drink.
I had to add that at the end. I was like, all right, man.
You see Brian's eyes. He just he lit up.
Brian was like, I got a week of stuff to talk about now, man. Oh, man, this is good. Yeah, that's my ultimate goal, though. Is, if there's anything that can come out of this, is just gotta meet Mr. Cummings one day. That's the big thing. So, Dustin, move on. Next question.
How did you feel when you found out that David was doing the episode?
Honestly, it was kind of funny. It was around my birthday. I think Graham Rowat, who's been just, I love that man. I love Graham Rowat. Personally, he is just a great guy, and he has been just instrumental in the success that we have had in this podcast. And
fellow Canadian.
Yeah. Well, hey man, you know what? Neighbors up north, love you guys so much. Don't worry. There's nothing but a big heart right here, and sometimes it bleeds a little maple. It is. And I put it on a pancake. But Graham kept texting me saying, hey, I got it narrated, but it sounds terrible. I need you to listen. I need you to listen to this. A little bit beforehand, it was my birthday. September 28th was my birthday, and Graham knows how much that I actually admire and respect Mr. David Cummings. And, because again, he inspired me to do this. He inspired me to take a dream I had and then turn it into a podcast. And it's because of David that the Grey Rooms exists. And so Graham kept telling me, hey, listen to this story, listen to this story. And I was working on another one, and he contacted my wife, said, can you tell him to listen to this story? And I told Graham, said, yeah, I'll listen. And then 20 minutes later, he said, hey, have you listened yet? And then Graham, she said, no, he's still sitting there. And Graham said, God, you can take a horse to water, and I remember Chrissy came over and she said, Graham is blowing my phone up saying, you need to listen to this story. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll listen to this, because I was in the middle of working on stuff. And this is my first time doing this. So I've learned how to really, like JM said, I've gotten comfortable in the sense that I've learned how to kind of take my workload and make it flow better. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I was full on panic mode. I'm trying to get stuff done. I'm trying to make it not sound like crap. I'm trying to be able to shake David Cummings' hand one day, release a good high quality thing like that. And I said, fine, I'm going to listen to this. And I open up the sound file, and there's a video out there. I don't know who has it, but my wife was standing there with her phone, and she was video. Oh, you got it, Brian? Oh yeah. And forget, my wife was standing there with the phone, and I was sitting at my computer, and it's a very unflattering video, by the way. I need to go in there and Photoshop it out, put some abs on it or something. But I was sitting there, and I started listening, and it did not hit me right away. Like the first couple of seconds, I was listening to it, and I said, wow. The first thing I heard is, Greg, the tone is really good. It's like a baritone. It's got a nice, rich, very smooth. Is this David freaking Cummings? and I sat up in my chair, and I was like, Is this David Cummings? And then I look at my wife, and I saw the phone, and I knew I had been had. I knew they got me. But it was the best birthday gift ever, because ultimately, as a podcaster in the horror genre, coming from a person who was heavily influenced by the Podfather, David Cummings, to have his voice in my podcast, you don't understand, guys. Like, that was the best thing ever. I was elated. I was excited. I was happy. I know the video doesn't always show that, but trust me, I talked about it for a minute, and I'm still stoked about it. Like, just to think that David Cummings' voice is in my podcast.
Yeah.
Really? It's like, seriously?
I was hoping you would cry.
We all hoped. We all hoped that. I know Chrissy was too. She was like, oh man, I hope he's crying. He just kind of had that mellow, like, that's David Cummings. That's David Cummings. I was like, seriously?
I don't cry, guys. I'm not much of a cry guy. It's usually allergies.
I'm envisioning Ben Stiller in what is it, Starsky and Hutch? Like, I don't cry, I work out. I'm not crying.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
You're crying.
No, but ultimately, man, seriously, it was a great story, and the fact that I had the opportunity to listen to an icon read it, and knowing that Graham helped put that together, it meant the world to me. So this story has a very personal attachment to me, like, I guess, to my soul. I guess, because again, David Cummings is in the Grey Rooms.
Yeah,
David Cummings. Seriously.
I just sort of sit here and listen to that. I mean, I'm one of these people who doesn't take sort of flattery or comments like yours easily, because to me, I'm just this ordinary guy who sort of has faked his way into this. So it means a lot that it's impacted you that much. It's I really appreciate it. I don't think of myself as the David Cummings, but
the Podfather.
Are, brother.
The Podfather, exactly. But thank you for that. It's a real ego boost.
No, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing, because I tell you what, every week I do the same thing as Dustin. I kind of hold off on listening to podcasts for a while when I'm at work. I listen to multiple, and like Girl in Space and things like that. Darkest Night, and Calling Darkness. I listen to all these podcasts, and then when NoSleep podcast comes up, I get my little notification. I avoid it because as a postal worker, I want to have a couple of hours to just sit there and listen to it. So
fill up the bathtub, get a glass of wine, light some candles.
Not as a postal worker. Not yet. Not yet. I'm not that far in my career yet where I can have some wine and some candles in my postal truck. But one day, that's my goal. But no, the honor is truly ours and mine personally, David. Thank you ever so much. And we're going to have that drink one day. I promise.
Looking forward to that.
Jason, I keep envisioning you as like a Charles Bukowski postal office type of worker. Especially now that you said you enjoy your bourbon. Like, fuck you, I'll fucking punch you in the mouth.
Hey, Brian, is that anything close?
I call him on occasion when he's working. And, I hear everything. I hear him kicking packages across the I heard him punch a
fragile
dog. Dog, little chihuahua, and he just
you just kicked that dog?
No, he never did.
Darn straight! He's just trying to bite me.
But really, I do hear everything, and it's funny. We mainly just talk about everybody like JM and how he's a pain in the butt, and Graham, and
like JM.
I know.
Wait, are you wiretapping this?
Dustin, I don't think I told you hi, brother. What's up, man? I think this is the first time we've talked in real life.
Yeah.
Always a beautiful face to see.
I was telling him how much I hate his beard because I can't do it.
Well, I think it's a good idea, Dustin. You might want to kind of mention that MR has a lot of connections, or he's tied into a lot of the independent horror community.
He is
a lot of indie writers.
Yeah. See, that's how I actually met Tapia was through the horror writing community, and that was one of the cool things that when Medina and I started Aphotic Realm, we sort of stepped our toe in, and we were like, hey guys, we sort of have this magazine and it's like horror and stuff, and Tapia was just like, hey, what's up? Come on over. What's up, guys? And he was one of the first dudes to really welcome us in, and it was just amazing to see like the community, and of course, with Hindered Souls and everything like that. Big welcoming community. So that was awesome. Awesome stuff. And again, you're probably one of the coolest, chill, nicest guys out there that we've met in the horror community that we've had the pleasure to get to know over the, 2+ years that we've been doing this now. So
yeah.
Now we're finally actually talking in a Google Hangout. Look at that.
It goes all the way around.
Yeah.
Just like any other, industry even. There's always going to be those dicks and all that, but I've always been, I like to think of myself as a humble guy, and I know things are tough all over for everybody. And so I just love showing appreciation, even for somebody telling me hi or something, and it's like, hey man, thanks for noticing me for a quick second.
Yeah. But speaking of the horror community, that's where you actually sent me over this story to read over for you before you submitted it. And that was my first read through and exposure to this story. And I was blown away. I had mentioned it earlier, but I was blown away by the story. And I loved, like the cadence of the story, how you sped it up, like you were saying, as it got closer to the ground and stuff like that. I just thought that was insanely cool. But we mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to hear it from you. And that is the story of what inspired you to write it. And I thought that was super cool. And tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. So I was, the resort in the story is based on the resort that I was working at. And it's the Gay Hotel and a convention center. They got a huge one over in Florida, apparently. But this one's right next to DIA, or the Denver International Airport, and that thing it's huge. It's huge. I mean, there's a highway that passes by it, and you're only getting the half a view of it, and you still think it's huge. And I was a concrete finisher at the time. I did concrete for about 12 years, and we really would go in about 4 o'clock in the morning to start pouring concrete. So I would leave my house 2:30, 3:30, depending on the pour, because I live an hour away from Denver. But so the morning I show up, there's a crane operator, tower crane operator that's shows up at the same time when we pour. And I'm as soon as I step off, I'm telling him hi, and he says, "Hey, did you hear what happened last night?" And not ironically, but coincidentally, it was the same day that Hugh Hefner died. So I apologize for all the squeaking. My chair is about to break on me. But yeah, so when he asked me, I was like, "Yeah, man, Hugh Hefner, man, rest in peace, pimp," just joking around. He's like, "No, he was a guy fell off the 8th floor." I was like, "Whatever, you're just shitting me." Seriously? I was like, "No shit." And I immediately thought he passed away. Give me 1 second. I have a puppy.
It's a cliffhanger.
What are you doing?
He couldn't have stopped at a better spot.
Come here. Come here. I'm going to sell mine. We're also dog sitting. There's a little trash digger. Say hi, Freddie. Say hi, Freddie.
I'm not bringing mail to your house, sir.
Oh, he'll lick the hair off your arms. But so I forget where I was at. But anyways, so yeah.
Somebody told you he died, or you thought he died.
Yeah.
I thought he died, yeah. So and he's like, "No, he survived." I was like, "Whatever, dude. That's 8 floors." And he's like, "Yeah." He landed on a fucking porta potty. And I was like, "What?" And we were pouring on the completely opposite end of the building. And I was like, "No shit." And sure shit, they had news crews and everything the night before. And I know once I got this story accepted and everything, I've posted the link to the actual news article and everything. And this shows the porta potty, the top of it's like half smashed in. And so the ongoing joke for a while between us concrete finishers was, man, if somebody was in there, they didn't have no problem getting, releasing their their bowels. But
wow.
Yeah. And apparently all he left with was, I think, a broken leg, if I remember correctly.
Wow,
And
8th floor fall. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the irony is he was a plumber. And within the past year and a half, I've left concrete and now I'm plumbing. So, but yeah, his own, what can I say? His own trade kind of saved him.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that if you're going to go up higher than 4 floors, you need to find the local access to the porta-john and make sure if I'm going to go backwards,
it's underneath. It's underneath.
That's awesome.
Wow.
There were a lot of conspiracy theories behind what really happened, though, because he was on a floor where all they had were, guard cables on the side running from the post, the columns. And outside of the cables, the safety cables, is about a foot, maybe foot and a half worth of concrete and leading edge. After that, there's nothing because the safety cables is the last resort. And so they were trying to figure out how he fell off and everything. And there were so many conspiracy theories. But yeah, I think it was the day after I learned of it, I was like, man, there's a story in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of notes in my iPod, in my phone. And so when Brian reached out to me and I was like, shit, how am I going to kill someone? I was like, there it is. I know exactly where I'm going to head.
That's definitely a way to kill someone.
Yeah.
Oh man, just no porta potty underneath to save him.
Yeah.
Oh man. That is something else.
Or was there? It kind of just cuts off.
Yeah. It does. Oh, you cheated us. He didn't die, did he?
Leaves it
Season
open.
3, ground level.
He's
the
like,
actual
I
ground.
drank that Red Bull before I jumped. Whoa!
Yeah, I'll admit, man. I said this earlier, but I was hoping that his safety vest that you mentioned would be a callback, and it would snag on something, and that would save him. But then of course it's now obviously the gray rooms, and he's gonna apparently die. So
Yeah.
So but regardless, great story.
Thank you.
Love the pacing. You always have a way of just sticking your hands in the guts of people and just noodling them around, and so all your stories do that. So it's just really, this one especially was fantastic. So
thank you. I'm gonna start calling it that strategy you're saying of getting my hands in their guts, giving their guts the old Miyagi. Just,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Is it wax on, wax off?
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to Bo Chapell as well. He's probably listening or will listen. So for the artwork and everything, and the support and everything, and just being a great human being as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Bo's good, dude.
Bo's in there.
He's in the chat room. Yeah.
Yeah, he hears you.
What's up, Bo?
Yeah, for sure. Hey, everyone in the chat. How's the chat doing, Brian? Are you watching?
Yeah, I'm watching. Everybody's doing pretty good. I guess we had some issues with the camera a little bit, but everybody loved the puppy. They wanted to see the puppy. And Bo's awesome.
Bo is awesome.
Freddie. He was named after Freddie Mercury.
Nice.
Well, I want to sort of,
by the way.
I want to sort of switch to the Raymond story.
Uh-oh.
This is sort of a big episode for Raymond. And there's probably not a lot that you're going to be able to tell me, but I'm going to poke it. So Brian, you are responsible for this kind of torture, right? Not at all.
My mom gave birth to me, so it's her fault.
Fair.
Hey, you know I'm on your mom's side right now. You can't.
That's right.
Her at the end of the world.
Yeah, I guess in a way I am. For the actual episodes, I do kind of blame some of the other authors because they kind of lead into them. But for the backstories, yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah. So, okay. First of all, is Bob just messing with him, or is he trying to be nice? He sort of said he thanked him, but can we get a de facto yes or no? Is he trying to be nice in his own sort of screwed up way, or is he just more mind games?
Brian, I'd defer to counsel.
I mean, I guess I can say, because I think I said it before, that one of the roles I had for Bob is that he does not lie to Raymond. So take that however you want to take it. But he isn't. He won't. Well, the things he said is the truth.
Because after Summer Child, getting bacon for breakfast.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know how you could say that's a good. Hey, I'm being nice. I'm giving you breakfast. Eggs, Pop-Tarts, cinnamon sugar Pop-Tarts, brown cinnamon sugar Pop-Tarts, man. Do me a solid, Bob. Give me Pop-Tarts or eggs.
Maybe a little bit. He's messing with them a little bit.
Like, I'm going to be nice, but I'm going to twist the knife a little bit at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he likes Raymond. Or at least, I think their relationship's a little bit adjusted now. But at the same time, Bob has been doing this job for some time, and he has to get his kick somehow.
Yeah.
So in a way, I mean, I think that is a little bit of a thing he does. But I also think that I mean, did you kind of get maybe an idea that Bob's maybe out of touch with reality a little bit or something? I don't know. I mean, he seems to kind of not get certain things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely it sort of seemed, like you said, they're sort of settling into this relationship of sorts, for better or worse. Because before it was like, choose a door, choose a door, choose a door, choose a door, choose a door. But now it's just like, yes, it was your wife, or I think this. He's pulling more responses out of him. So I think that was one thing that was pretty crazy, was that he said that the voice was choosing or causing him to choose the wrong door, or trying to influence him to choose the wrong door.
The singing. Yeah.
Yeah, the singing. So what's the story? Talk to me.
If you ask me something, everything just totally blank for a little bit. I'm sorry.
No, I just said talk to me. Talk to me.
Oh, man.
Spill the beans. So I guess now the way I heard it, I've listened to it a couple times now. It sounds like he's implying that the voice was causing him to choose the wrong door, or choosing. He's had pretty crappy doors, and then all of a sudden he like Bob kills him and then lets him, here you go, I killed you, here's a door, and he got to do some good, and he got to save a kid.
Well,
yeah, or did he?
Well, that's what Raymond said, and he said that felt pretty good. So
yeah, but he doesn't know because it cut off. But I mean, yeah, and then he
still made him feel pretty good. But who knows? Maybe that could have been even worse. But who knows? But yeah, like you said,
such is the gray rooms, my friend.
It is. Yeah, I do think that singing voice. He is making some claims about it. And I think there is obviously this thing that Bob is researching. He's trying to figure out what's going on. Something is different than it normally is in these situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bob is going to get down to the bottom of it. But that also means that Bob isn't responsible for it. Mm-hmm. So we could take it that Bob and Raymond are sort of on the same page here, and that they don't 100% know what's going on.
Right.
Bob probably knows a little bit more, but that's as far as Raymond's going to find out.
Yeah.
And but I do think that, somebody is apparently manipulating events so that when Raymond picks a door, he's picking one that maybe is specific, or somebody wants him obviously to take that for whatever reason. You might find out why. I don't know. I mean, we got a couple episodes left.
Yeah, about 3.
Maybe, who knows?
How would that be? Wouldn't it be like we just end the season like, see you next season?
See you next season, but guess what? Next season it's not going to be Raymond. Who knows?
How do you know this?
You'll never know.
You don't know nothing, dude. Yourself.
It's another gray room. It's just Raymond.
It's just Bob doing haikus. That's what it is.
That's it. Season 2. Yeah. Thanks for letting the cat out of the bag there, Brian. Season 2, just Bob haikus, and occasional Raymond, and then some more haikus.
It's funny though, isn't it? Like, I was really worried because at first we kind of had the warden in the preseasons, and I thought people really liked the warden, and I think they do. The patrons are listening to the warden now, and
that's right.
They get a lot of jokes, and they got a lot of fun stuff. But when Raymond and Bob started out in episode 1, nobody said anything. We weren't getting any feedback whatsoever, and it was really kind of scary. But now, even on Discord, I just got an instant message on Discord, whatever they call it, DMs, I guess now. Somebody said, "Hey, am I going to miss anything with Raymond and Bob? Because the preseason episodes look interesting, but I'm terrified of spiders. And I noticed that one has that, and I really don't want to listen to that episode. Am I going to miss anything?" And that, to me, now we're getting somewhere with these intros. People, they're worried that if they have some triggers and they don't want to listen to the anthology story, they still want to know what happens with Raymond and Bob. And so that's, I don't want to tell her that spiders are in the next episode, but
All over it. All over it.
Well, I mean, even at the very least, you can listen to the beginning and then proceed. So that's the good part about it. So
yeah, that's a nice.
Even if you're not listening to the,
I think we are starting to pick up some of the, because when you have things like all of these podcasts that take short stories and turn them into a production, you're getting a part of the people that listen to podcasts, but then there's the other part of people who listen to podcasts that are into the audio dramas and like the serials that are continuing from episode to episode. And so we can kind of manipulate our way into getting both of those crowds because we have a little bit of everything for people. So it's kind of, I'm kind of starting to see that people might say, well, this, I don't want to hear about somebody eating their mother, a child.
I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't already listened to that story.
Oh, come on. Stick a fork in it, Jason.
Another spoiler alert again if you haven't listened to that story.
I'm just a terrible person today. I'm going to ruin everything. I'm not going to talk.
And another spoiler alert.
It's a spoiler alert. You don't even have to talk to him to find out he's already a terrible person.
Oh man. I think it would be interesting. I was just kind of thinking about this as the seasons go. Like I already had Graham Rowat as Graham Rowat in one of the episodes, and I think it would be kind of funny if in the gray rooms our actual people exist somewhere somehow, and so like every now and then you'd see JM kind of pop in and just be like have something horrible happen to him, and as he's making a song or something.
That's not nice.
I'm in.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, I think it would be interesting.
Easter eggs are always fun.
Yeah,
that's always awesome. And I actually liked the game show part. I thought that was really funny.
The game show was very fun.
I absolutely
listening
enjoyed that too. I'll tell you what, I enjoyed that. Yeah, it was fun to do. It was fun to listen to everybody on the game show element. I'm sorry, my favorite character in that was Michael LaBeef. Just because he was just such a douche. I just loved it.
Don't they call him that at one point? Like Michael the douche?
Yeah, Michael the douche. The warden does, I believe. I think the warden calls him Michael the douche.
Yeah.
After he kills him with the grenade. No, he killed the nice guy with the grenade. Again, spoiler alert. I'm done. Sorry.
Well, that was the thing. Like when I watched that movie True Grit, I never one of the characters' name is LaBeef. And that just stuck with me all these years. I was like, man, what a weird name. Just it doesn't look like LaBeef. It's has that I guess it's French spelling, right? And so it has that kind of looks totally different. But yeah, I loved it. And I was like, you know what? I'm writing this. I'm putting LaBeef in because it just sounds like some muscular, roided up.
By the way, Mr. Cummings, if you have not heard that episode. If you were to scroll through our stuff, it's our mid-season extravaganza. It's a double feature, and we have. I don't know if you heard that or not, but yeah. Oh, okay. Well, you're a man. I love you.
Yeah, I listened to that one especially. That was a great one. I like I love that game show stuff.
Graham. All right. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. So. I guess is there any? Okay, so we learned with Raymond. I'm gonna beat this dead horse some more. So Raymond, we got to see a little bit more of his home life, the memories or maybe memories. We don't know because that's what you keep throwing us here. Depressed. His job sucks. Drinking. His wife, talking to him like that. And of course he's not, I just sort of felt bad for him a little bit, because it's just like, that would suck. I've been there. And it's just like, I know that kind of depression where you don't want to get up or do anything. And it's just like, that sucked.
Yeah.
But, and that's where I think it's key. And I think that, I thought that was really well written there. it's key when you're depressed and you're spiraling like that, to where you don't want to do anything. You're the kind of depressed where you just sit and you go to work, you come home, you sit, or if you're out of work, you just sit and then turn to, substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, or something like that. If you don't have someone that supports you, and all they do is, like what Lucy was doing at the end of, or towards the end of that little segment there, where all she's doing is just, she isn't like being real supportive. I know that's a slippery slope because, again, he wasn't really contributing either, and she's pregnant and stressed and all that kind of stuff. And pregnancy has all kinds of emotions. So I'm not trying to like point fingers here. Don't get me wrong, ladies out there. I've
Good save.
Been through 2 pregnancies with my wonderful wife. And so I totally understand the frustration. But at the same time, if you don't recognize that and that kind of depression and get help, or see the depression in your partner and get help, that's where it can spiral and get out of control, like what it started to sound like was happening. So I thought that was really well written, and sort of felt like it could actually happen and wasn't like fictitious or over the top or, fake.
If I may say, that's kind of Brian's MO, though. He's a very talented author, and grabbing onto like real life scenarios and just kind of just inflating them, or really pointing out like goods or bads. That one thing about this Raymond story, again with Brian's exceptional writing, it has been an up down like roller coaster. And that just goes to show you just how talented of an author Brian is. So it actually is nice to see that the Raymond stories are getting lots of love, because he puts a lot of time into this.
Mm-hmm.
He really seriously thinks about how he can engage Raymond to the audience. Because honestly, when I first came to him with the idea, and I said, look, I got this Raymond guy. This is just some schmuck who's going to walk to a door and die, and then he's going to wake up, walk to a door and die. And Brian's like, that kind of sucks. And then he decided, I'm going to elaborate on this. And I just kind of gave him the reins, and he went with it. And because he's such a talented author, he was able to bring out these emotions from people, which now we see that people are connecting with these stories, like you just said there. So, well, it's funny, hats off to Brian.
You said just some schmuck, going through all this. But Brian does do a great job at invoking these emotions, because I know I can't remember exactly right now, but there's been times when I'm like, God, dude, you're just kind of like a fucking schmuck, like little cocky little bastard.
Yeah.
And then there's other times like, oh man, Raymond, I feel so bad, dude.
Well, Bob's kind of,
and especially now that it's gotten further into the story with the pregnancy and everything, there's a lot more attachment to Raymond now.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do, and honestly, I think Ground Level has had kind of a very similar effect. I mean, this guy could have been Raymond, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know his name. I mean, I'm not saying canon-wise. I'm just saying, like they had a similar sort of personality, I think, where they're imperfect people. They may make some boneheaded choices, and then they pay for it. And I think that it would be okay to say that he is having, his memory is returning. It's something that Bob makes a comment about in one of the earlier episodes, right? When he does that Prisoner 909, blah, blah, blah. He basically makes that comment that he's starting to kind of have like a relapse or something. His memories are returning to him. Bob doesn't know the extent of it. Raymond is kind of figuring this stuff out, but it kind of gives an idea in my mind of another horror scenario, maybe even worse than what Raymond is going through. But what if you completely forgot everything, all your memories, and you're starting to kind of, live a life, and then all of a sudden your memories start flooding back to you, and you realize maybe you're not such a good person.
Right.
Maybe you weren't such a good person. Are you still this person? Because now you have a chance to start over, right? I mean, we are altogether a collection of our past decisions and our background and the things that have affected us and been implanted in us and what we learned and things. So if you remove all those and you're a clean slate like Raymond is right now, is he at fault for what he's done? What is happening? So it's kind of like, that's why he asked Bob, am I a piece of shit?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't remember. He doesn't know. And what he is finding out, he doesn't like. And of course, Bob, says you're not a piece of shit. Now, I guess you could take it literally. Like Bob is like, dude, don't worry about it. It's cool. Or you could take it as, Raymond, you're not, I understand. I'm sorry. You're not a piece of shit.
Sounds like a Twitter poll to me, brother.
Yeah.
However, you could take it as, you could also take it as Bob has probably also seen a lot worse people if he has come in contact with other people in the gray rooms. So therefore, he could still be a deplorable human being.
Sure.
And has done some awful things. But,
one of the things too that it was funny because Brooks Bigley listened to this episode and he I think he texted me. I don't think he called me, but it's very real in my mind. So I can't remember which, but he goes to me and he says, Brian, I think there was a glitch. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, he didn't finish, Graham had a pause when he was kind of given the ending of the episode, with the prisoner,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, Brooks, he's supposed to pause. Like he's saying goodbye, Raymond. He's like choked up, but there was something there that made him take a pause and feel moved by the fact that Raymond apologized to him.
Yeah. See, I took it as Bob might have been like a little bromancy right there. Like,
yeah.
Hey, man, sorry, but Raymond. Raymond. Sorry, bro. Here's my jersey.
I sort of took that as he was he was sort of moved by the apology and the fact that it's just like, hey, I know you mean well. It may be messed up, but I think you mean well. And I thought, oh, he's sort of choked up or something. That's how I sort of took it, which I thought was interesting for, because I don't know, we don't know a whole lot about Bob other than he has said that he doesn't enjoy what he does, but he's just there to do a job and he has to choose a door and make sure he chooses a door, but that he also has to follow protocol. So, it's very interesting.
Well, even Brian said there, it's like, it's the back and forth. Is Raymond a bad person? Maybe he was. Is he changing? Yeah. Is he a different guy? If you were to think about yourself, if you are Raymond and you had the opportunity to be retrospective or take into perspective the things that you have done, would you make different choices? Are you that same person? Are you going to be a different person tomorrow? I mean, that's the whole what's it called, the butterfly effect kind of thing there. You're kind of feeling it, what's going on, what's happening. But I really enjoy it. Brian's doing a great job.
This is actually the Stepford Wives in reverse.
I never saw it. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So sorry.
All right. Well, you got to watch the Stepford Wives, the original one, not the remake, Matthew Broderick.
So could you kind of connect it with the Golden Girls?
No.
Oh. Well, damn.
Basically, Raymond and Bob are going to share a stiff one together, and they're going to.
Well, that wouldn't be Bob. Sorry, Mr. Cummings. I apologize that you have to deal with Brian's antics.
I'm getting jealous over here.
Brian, it's David. Shut up.
It's funny because people, we've been joking about that with Raymond and Bob for a while. There's that tension there between them. There's got to be a fanfic somewhere, right?
Probably. You never know. It's probably either on the forum or on the Discord.
Actually, if you really want antics, you want to see Brian have some serious fun. you need to swing your butt over to our Patreon because those Warden episodes, I don't know if you get the opportunity, like if anybody remembers the Warden from the beginning. I just read the next episode of the Warden today. Yeah. This is fun, guys. I love that. I love the Warden. And the funny thing is, the Warden, like, well, he was just like came out of nowhere kind of dude. And Brian, love how he writes it. So you want antics? Come listen to the Warden. Ask anybody at the Patreon about the Warden. They'll tell you about the Warden. He's an SOB. Yeah, straight up. And he don't care about nothing.
Very twisted.
But I like it because I've been using him to kind of make parodies of things. You obviously had the parody of
turn the light on.
We had a parody of Frankenstein, and we had a parody of I think in Stephen King's nonfiction book, Dance Macabre. There's he basically makes one of the chapters. He talks about one of the oldest campfire tales, one of the earliest types of spooky stories, the most simplest horror story you could tell, and it's the tale of the Hook. And if you don't know what it is, just kind of Google it or something. But it's just a basic horror story that kind of covers all those things. The couple in Lover's Lane, and they're making out, and there's like a known serial killer out there and all this stuff. But it's just a real basic story. But I kind of did a parody of that with the Warden. Now we have something else coming up, and then it's going to be pretty good. I'm really excited to do all those, but the downside is I really want everybody to hear them. So hopefully we can get some more patrons in so they can listen to it. But I do think, and Jason, we have been talking about this. You
can see me now. I didn't realize how dark it was. I'm sorry. Apologies.
No, I thought you were going for the mood.
Well, I mean,
I'm
setting a new standard, bro.
Well, I mean, David is representing as the Podfather with the all black and the black background, and he's got that.
You come to me on the night of my daughter's wedding. And ask me to do a spoiler for you.
Yeah, that's cool though. But yeah, I mean, it's I think that what I was trying to get to was, Jason, we are releasing for sure. Right, a compilation of Raymond and Bob at some point.
Yeah.
After season.
No, I really like that idea. I think that we should take all the Raymond stories, the Raymond and Bob stories, the interactions, and put them in sequential order so that you could just sit there, boom, and listen to it happen. Granted, it's going to be after all the rest of the season, and you'll probably get it very early in Patreon. Just going to plug that again.
Yeah.
Why not?
Do we want to do anything with the Warden stuff? Like make a compilation?
I think we just should continue to write this zany, ridiculously stupid stuff. It's awesome. I love the Warden. And the Warden is one of the funnest characters that I get to do, which it's so crazy like how all this works. The fact that I'm even talking to all of you is just still blows me away, because how this was going to be, I was going to get stock music, going to sit around with sound effects. I was going to do everything. I was going to do Bob. I was going to do Raymond. I was going to read all the stories. And then I was probably going to jump 8 floors to my toilet doom. But the fact that everybody's here and rocking and rolling, it's amazing. I think we just continue to go with it, man. Let's just keep doing what we do. It is what it is.
All right. Sounds good to me. Hey, I got a couple questions from the room here.
Okay.
And the first question's from Infrafan, Bo.
Who's that?
It's Bo Chapell, but when you try to say Infrafan,
I can't
try to say that 5 times fast. You're going to sound completely like you have a mouthful of marbles or something.
Did you listen to the credits for this story? I was like, I edited so much of that out. It was probably like seriously 20 seconds of me trying to say it.
You should have just kept it, man. That would have been great. I would have.
Next time, I'm just going to put his name in there, be like, and 2, Morse code. There you go. Just
So the question we have is for,
love you, Bo, by the way.
Is for you, Jason.
Oh, God.
And it's also for David.
Oh.
The question is, where do you go to perform these dark, tragic scenes? Good question.
Well, I
Is this
live
like
in a rural
togetherness, like you
Nebraska, so I
guys
usually
are
go.
bringing them together.
What's that?
Dark scenes.
Hold on.
Well, I think
Stiff one.
Well, I mean, I live in rural Nebraska, so I usually just go down to the local Triple H down here, and I
Go
watch.
Big Red, by the way.
Well, yeah, thank you, brother. And I watch a couple of rodeos, maybe eat some some corn, and drink some wheat beer, and then that's pretty much it. Yeah, I live in rural Nebraska. What more do you need?
so. That's where you record the dark scenes.
Yes.
That's how he gets in the mindset.
Yes.
He lives in Nebraska.
I use my
He's
Audio
angry.
Technica AT2020, and I jump into my highly sophisticated, extremely expensive moving blanket sound booth, and then I record them.
Can I tell mommy something?
Well, I don't live in Nebraska, so I can't tap into that rich source of angst and darkness. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking technically, I mean, I have a little sound recording area, but I think what you're really asking is, how do you get into the mood for a story like that? And boy, it's just you try to tap into some of your own feelings of inadequacy, and in this story especially, he is. I mean, we've talked about him as being this really shitty guy, and he's a terrible guy. He's a horrible guy. But if you really think about it, he made a couple of mistakes that were obviously serious mistakes, but I found a certain sense of empathy with him because he tried so hard with his wife to to start a family and do all that kind of stuff. So if the idea is how do you become a character who is pretty normal but who has kind of screwed up his life by a couple of bad choices, that's easy to fall into, at least for me. I mean, it's it's not hard to think of mistakes that I've made and just tap into that. So yeah, it's this character in specifically was easy to fall into.
I agree completely, man. Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, another question is from Justin Thulu.
Justin.
And he says, "Hey, David, what gets you excited for a new project or role?" And then there's a follow-up. Do you find your preparation for a role changing with experience?
Interesting questions. Yeah, I mean, in terms of new roles and stuff, I think I said at the start, it's fun to discover new characters and what I can do with them. And characters like this guy, it's actually a little tougher in the sense that it's just kind of a normal person. I'd almost prefer to play a kind of a wacky character or somebody who can be a lot more heightened and over the top or do a silly voice or a different voice anyways. So it's, for someone like this, it's the challenge of trying to, not to sound too much like a pretentious actor, but you kind of get into their skin and try to figure out what makes them tick and how you can portray that. And what was the second question again?
The second question was, do you find your preparation for a role changing with experience?
Yes, it certainly does change, just in the sense that I think that through just pure repetition and doing it for almost 8 years and having narrated hundreds and hundreds of stories, the experience, it is easier to get into a role, and it is easier to find what that character or who that character really is. So yeah, it's certainly, with experience, it just, like with anything, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. So yeah, even dark characters or dark stories like this, it's a lot easier because I've done it enough that I can fall into that kind of mode a lot easier. So yeah, good questions.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, real quick, Brian, I have a question for you.
Oh,
So right,
Brian, I have a
of
question
course,
too.
to your right side is behind you is an aphotic realm issue. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's their first one.
No.
Or second. Anyways,
3? Is
I
it?
can't see it.
That's 4.
Is that classified?
Yeah, that's the one I have.
That's
as
4.
well.
Yeah.
That's the one
Is that
Brian
one
Black is in.
classified? Oh, okay. And then behind you to your left, is that Gerard Butler or is that A. Medina?
Oh, the face?
Yes, him right there.
He doesn't
Like,
know
yeah,
he wasn't
a
there.
life size of
This is Graham Rowat.
Easily
okay.
mistaken for Gerard Butler, though.
Yeah, he'll love
That's
that.
awesome.
Well,
he's
from
just
far
as
away, it
handsome.
almost looked like Medina.
I do hope Graham listens back to this. That was the best right there. Well done.
Graham has better abs than Gerard Butler.
Oh, yeah. Nicely said.
Just as handsome and as good of an actor.
Oh, man. We miss you, Graham. It's good to see you.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Graham.
Brian, Chrissy actually had a question. She came ask me. She said, well, since David likes to play more kind of off the wall, off the cuff characters, maybe we should reach out to him to be in a Warden story.
There you go. Hey, that's up to wait.
I guess it should be a question, more of a statement.
Yeah, and if he's okay, we probably should have Graham make that decision.
Yeah, there it is, Graham.
Since he's doing our cast, we.
I'm in.
love that guy.
I'm in.
Graham,
Yes,
All
sir.
right, guys. Well, I apologize. I appreciate you guys having me on. I gotta try to get some more stuff in before the night's over and get up early tomorrow. But
Hey, Mr. Tapia,
It's
thank you
long.
ever so much for the story. If you ever go to the Buffalo
Thank you,
Rose,
guys.
have a drink for me. I played that place with my band one time.
did you really?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
And forgive my ignorance. I was standing in town like, why are there like shuttles going through this town? There's like, that's a tiny little town, I was like, you can walk from one end to the other in 5 minutes. I was like, why are there shuttles?
Yeah.
The Coors factory is here. And the best thing ever, the thing that made me funny, we were driving in and a tour guide was talking about the mountain water. And he
Yeah.
pointed over and we were like, that's some really nasty looking water. He said, oh yeah, that's Keystone.
That's Keystone. That's
Thanks
hilarious.
for the story, brother.
But,
It was an honor to
hey,
take
thank
it.
you.
hey,
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Part of the season and the podcast. Dustin, JM, everybody, David, thank you for narrating again.
Thank you.
Amazing job. So I appreciate you guys.
Congratulations
Love you guys.
again,
You guys
man.
have a great end of your weekend. So,
Thanks, you too, bud. Have a good one. Thank you for the story.
and happy anniversary to, I believe it was Jason and Brian just recently had an anniversary. So
I mean, you caught that? Oh,
I'll be.
I've been waiting.
David, don't get sorry. Alice.
I'll beware.
All right, love you guys. You guys have a good night.
Hey, man.
Yeah. Peace, man.
Thank
Good night.
Oh no.
Well,
He's hilarious.
Yeah, I should get Medina's face. I should just have a collection of faces on my wall there.
You really do seem like the type that would collect someone's face.
yeah, that's
people's
kind of
faces.
Buffalo Billish, dude. I don't know about that. Like, you have a big lotion bottle.
Puts
That
on the
can
lotion
come out really wrong. That can come out really wrong. My bad.
Yeah,
So sorry.
Oh man.
right. Look, I have faces on one wall and I have Snorlax on the other. I mean, come on, guys.
Which actually, you just pointed off to your I believe it's your right there, Brian. We should really give Dustin like mad credit for everything he's done. I appreciate. I was excited to have us have an ad in that one magazine, and I think it was it series 4? Was it the 4th episode? I believe it was. I actually own that as well. So I want Dustin. You're asking us a bunch of questions. Tell us about your stuff, man. I mean, and I really would like to know more about where we can find it, what we can do, and then I want to know.
The gray room.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, Adrian and I went to Medina and I went to college together, and then afterwards we were like, hey, you know what? Let's keep this going. So we, decided to. We're like, yeah, you know what? We like horror and we like sci-fi and we like dark fiction and we like lit mag. So why don't we do that? So Photic Realm was born. So we've been going at that for a while now, 2 years, a little over 2 years. So we just released our 6th issue, and we have 3 anthologies. Bo is actually the guest editor on new anthology coming out in May.
Nice.
Appalachian Horror. So that one's going to be pretty good. Yeah, so that's, pretty much everything there is at aphoticrealm.com. All of our books and stuff are on Amazon. And then, with our podcast, it's all the Geek Men, the Masters. I also do with Bo. And that's on Podbean and iTunes and pretty much everywhere else. We basically wanted to talk about geek stuff, but we didn't want to put there's so much negativity in the world and everything's just like, oh, that sucked or this sucked or that sucked. And we were tired of that. And, I was tired of that. So much of it is just everywhere on the internet. So, our motto is it's the podcast that talks about all the things you love without all the hate. So, that's what the podcast is. We've just crossed 20 episodes. We're on our 21st episode or something like that. So 2nd season is about to wrap up here in the next couple episodes. So
excellent.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I had absolutely, forgive my ignorance. I didn't know you had a podcast. So now I'm going to be a follower. So there you go. And we wrap up our first season in 3 episodes.
Yeah. Which I wanted to actually ask you guys. You only have 3 episodes left of this season.
Well, and then I do have one story, which, by the way, if I may, I'm sorry, I truly don't. I'm not trying to interrupt. If you are a first-time author, you have never written anything before, this is your very first piece, and you would like to have it produced, send it to the Gray Rooms, and make sure you put in that title, first-time author, because after the very last story, we do have the final patron story. But the 2 weeks after the very last story, I am going to release a first-time author, first write story, fully produced. And I
Nice.
want to give authors the opportunity to release your first thing. If you have just released this and you think maybe it's good or you want somebody to hear it and you have a little confidence in it, shoot it our way. Let us produce it. So seriously. So
awesome.
Sorry.
No. That's awesome that you say that. It's good to have more places out there. Like that was our motivation for Aphotic Realm. Like so many places are like, hey, you have to have credits under your belt before we'll accept anything, or they just give you a form rejection and you don't get any real feedback. So that was our motivation with Aphotic Realm. Like we welcome first-time writers. We try to give them detailed feedback when we do have to reject, or we try to work a little bit more with them on stuff. Be like, okay, here's some suggestions if you want to revise and resubmit, stuff like that. So it's good that you guys are doing that. That's awesome. It'll give someone a mad props and somewhere to point to their work that they've done. So that's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, why not? I'm a first-time podcaster.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm sitting here again talking to all of you exceptionally talented people, and David Cummings, J.M. Scherf, you, Dustin, Brian, I mean everybody, MR, he's gone. I'm a first-time podcaster, so you all took a chance on me. So damn straight, I'm going to take a chance on somebody else.
Yeah. Everyone has to start somewhere.
The other, brother. It's one hand washes the other. We're a family. We're a friend. We're a community, and that's what it's about.
Yep, exactly. So that's awesome to hear. So you got 3 more episodes. You got the new fresh author, never published author episode.
So 4 total.
4.
Main. Yep.
Plus, how many episodes have you guys done for the Warden on Patreon?
There's 2 more. So right now we're sitting at 4. But actually, I'm glad you brought that up because 2 things. One, this week, if you're a patron, you're about ready to get the mother load. You get behind the door on Friday, and then that night you get the next story, which is Certain Man. I believe that's right. Yeah, Brian, did I get that right? Yeah, Certain Man. I don't know. I'm looking. I pulled the dang name.
Is Brian in the room with you?
This is my little board right here. This is my board. This is my organization. It's terrible. And I was like, I pulled the name down already. This is where I put the names when I pull them down. I put them right there. But yeah, Certain Man is the by Kelly Evans is the next story, and you will get that a week early as a patron. And yep. So they have Behind the Door. They have that. Plus, I am trying this week. It's going to. I just started a new series just for patrons called Bane, and what that is, that's more of like a creepypasta kind of a deal. And it's they will release the first episode of that this week. So yeah, that's what we have there, and we have one more bonus episode after that. So that's what we got.
A lot of stuff coming up.
This week, if you're a patron, you're going to get punched in the face.
Just scaring your ears with audio.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I guess so lots of stuff coming up there. How are the submissions going for season 2?
Great.
Have you been through all of those already?
Yeah, he's through all.
No.
No, I'm about halfway through the stories. See, you have to understand, like when season 1 came out, I personally, Jason started and I came around and I was personally, going to people on Twitter, different independent writers that I knew and things like that. And we were, we got the stories that we were going to use. It wasn't like we had a pile of stories to choose from. It was, I was talking to these people, and then they MR and everybody, and they were like, oh yeah, I'll write you something, and then they wrote us something, and fortunately everybody's story was great and became what we were using, so it worked out really well. But we were under, we didn't have a lot of time to start working on this really, so it kind of, we were under the gun there, and everything worked out. So for season 2, I kind of thought, you know what, like, okay, we had that contest in between for the preseasons, and that was, we got a bunch of stories for that, and we had it under control, and we thought, okay, this was great, and those stories were a little shorter. And then now season 2, we ended it in March for the deadline. We have all these stories, and so now, but where we're at in terms of our season 1 is we're just finishing season 1. So there's this kind of crunch to get all that done.
Yeah.
So I thought in my ignorance that, I'll give us 2 weeks and we'll have all the stories read and we'll figure it out. And boy, was that stupid.
Yeah.
So, and this rookie mistake, I didn't know. So I've gotten through, but I have a little bit more, I have a little bit more time on my hands than Jason does.
Yeah.
So I'm able to kind of go through. But I can't really make any major claims on the stories because I want Jason to read them, and we both want, kind of like how Aphotic Realm works. You guys all read the stories and then kind of discuss.
Right.
I think that's how you do it. And
yeah.
So we want to discuss it, and then we want to come up with the lineup, because the first thing we did, and this is something we mentioned before, is that when we come up with a lineup, we don't just come up with a lineup. We come up with the dates and everything as to when we want to release these.
Yeah. And
then we stick to those dates. There's never really, we've goofed by hours, like we had but we've never missed a deadline in terms of, if we said it was going to be, this weekend, this Friday, this whatever, at worst, it was like a Saturday because something goofy happened, like Jason's laptop blew up or something.
Yeah.
Thanks for mentioning that. Sorry, patrons.
we're ready on time, and it works out. So that's the thing. I mean, we want to be able to have another whiteboard for season 2 that Jason just showed you, and we want to have it all lined up and ready to go. And he's so proud of his little checks, but now he's going to have to clear it, and he's got a lot more checks to make.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, but I think we are probably leaning again on doing 13 episodes released so far. And, I think that's what we'll do. But I would think we were probably planning on doing another double feature. That was a lot of fun. I think that might.
Yeah. And we might even toy around with doing a couple more preseason episodes, and we might release 1 or 2 of the patron episodes. So
So we'll work on it. But the main thing is that if you've submitted a story, just be patient. I did have somebody actually apologize to me, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my story wasn't good enough." I'm like, I haven't even read all the stories yet. Just calm down.
Yeah.
Time. We're still working on things. Just and I definitely should be done relatively soon. Jason, do you have an idea when you might start pouring into the stories?
You know what? I was just looking at the board now and my calendar. I know our last official season story is on the 24th of May. And so I would say that June is probably a good time to just sit down and really dig into these stories. I don't see why we couldn't kind of have a basic idea by, middle end of July where we want to drop things down. Because honestly, I would like to be working on the stories by the end of June. I know that JM would like a lot of leeway too, because it's a lot of work production doing the audio aspects on things, especially when you're a musical composer. So I would say, what do you think, Brian? Maybe the end of June, middle of July kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll
let's not commit to nothing yet, but let's think around there. Let's think around there.
For that, but
hey, whatever. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my board, and I really have just a couple of things to do. So I'm definitely going to start reading these stories. I've already read a couple of them, and this is going to be a tough season, man, because already exceptionally talented authors have sent us stuff for season 1, and the same plus have sent us for season 2. So it's going to be really tough. So
yeah,
I don't know. Hang in there. Hey, we'll have something for you here very soon.
I have read some great stories, I will say already. It's not. I haven't read anything where we really had to turn it down. Right when we first started the submission period, which was, I think it was November, wasn't it? Was that? Yeah. So we started in November, and I remember this one guy sent us a YouTube video as a submission. And I said, well, in our guidelines, I kind of reiterated the fact that, you have to send us like a Word document or something, And he's like, oh no. He's like, I'm telling you, I already recorded the story. You're going to love it. I know when you want to produce it, you're going to want me to be in it. It's going to be great. You're going to love the story. I was like, what? So I sent it to Jason, and he listened to it, and I didn't listen to it. That was the best part. I was like, sucker. But, he listened to it, and it was, it was, but I said to the guy, I said, well, look, I'm sorry. If you want to write a story, I'll definitely look at it, as a submission and whatever. And he's like, well, it's your loss. I'm sure David probably gets a lot of those, but that was the first for me.
I was going to say, people who don't read submission guidelines, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what you guys have to go through over there. I can't.
Yeah, we've got a great editorial team who wade through those piles and piles of stories. So it's I'm grateful for them because they've got great eyes for picking out great stories. And but it would be overwhelming to try to deal with that just as one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely was interesting. But I mean, we'd also had another story where the F-bomb was used like probably every 5 words. Like it was like a Quentin Tarantino dialogue, but like the entire story was just that, it was just, it was crazy. I think it was about an STD from space or something. Like, I don't know. It was crazy, but it was.
Oh, that's a Gemma Amor story, undoubtedly.
Well, you know what? I had to pass on it because the guy lives in the end. Sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
No, again, I wanted to take the absolute moment. Again, I was just listening to David, and he's talking about the editorial staff and everything. It's breathtaking, again, to know that David started with just the basic idea. Now he has an editorial staff, and to know that the Grey Room started with a bad dream I had like a decade or more ago, and now we have like Brian, and we have Graham, and Brooks is helping us, and Brooks is also helping with Calling Darkness, and this is so fun, and it's just surreal and amazing. It's just a pinch me moment every time I get to hang out with all of you, and we all hope and pray to be able to stand in the shadow of somebody like Mr. Cummings, but thank you all. This is great. The look at this board and know we only have 3 left to go. Damn it. This is wonderful. So yeah, I don't know. I had to outpour there for a split second because I just had a little bit of a moment. It was like, whoa, holy
for crap. A guy who doesn't cry, you sure get nostalgic, or not nostalgic, but you get really sensitive,
Well, I mean, truth be told, again, present company, it's
a humbling and just a powerful feeling to know like where you started and to see where you are now, and just to see the work and to know that, a dream that I had just randomly now it's like we're however many episodes in and we have only this many to go, and we have people talking about it in forums and fans and listeners and Patreon members, and it's just like
I can't even believe that last one.
Yeah, and it's just like and you guys were ranked on sci-fi.com. I forget what the ranking, but you were in the top 10 of whatever they were listing, and
number 6 of 7, I believe.
Well, yeah, that was.
I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, we kind of. There were people that recommended us, I believe, from the Calling Darkness podcast, and the question, the author of the article works on that podcast, I believe, and she was saying, hey, do you guys have any recommendations? And they listed the Gray Rooms because it's kind of neat. This goes with everybody who is working on podcasts in some way, shape, or form, seems to cross paths with everyone else working on podcasts, and they end up working together in some way. And the glue that binds everyone together is Graham Rowat. But no, really, I mean, when you think about it, everybody, I mean, even like, you look at people like Graham, you look at Gemma, she's working on her own, she's done No Sleep, and she's in the Gray Rooms, and she's doing our other projects, and really, I mean, we're even starting to get even more people from No Sleep that's kind of helping us out with projects and back and forth. And I think Sarah Ruth Thomas is another voice actress that she's on ours. She's helping out on the Copper Heart, and then she's with No Sleep, and everybody is just kind of taking this whole talent pool and just kind of mixing and matching and doing all kinds of wonderful creative things. And it's really great. It's a community that I didn't really know existed in that kind of magnitude until I started working with the Gray Rooms. But it's fantastic. I mean, everybody knows everybody. That's why we really want to, we're hoping that, PodCon 3 happens, and it's going to be in Washington again. And hopefully we can, we'll be there and be able to meet all these people, because it feels like we've met a lot, but it would be great to put faces to the names that we've seen and that we've heard.
Right. With that being said, it's like, again, it's absolutely wonderful to get to talk to. I mean, really, in what format can you sit there and talk to the person who influenced your decision? So, yeah, Brian nailed it. It is community. Absolutely wonderful thing. And we greatly appreciate everything you've done. And this episode was well written.
Yeah.
I think that because of David Cummings, not just iconic voice, but exceptional delivery, made it easy to produce. JM really hit the home run by tapping into the emotion, just really bringing everything to the forefront. I think that This episode was a lot of fun to talk about. It will always be a lot of fun to talk about because it was just it was awesome. It was iconic in multiple levels, just for myself. Well, David included, and this was a big deal. This was a big deal, and it was an absolute pleasure to always hang out and talk to all of you guys about this stuff. Seriously, it is.
Yeah, and we have just to kind of set things up for next time. We have another big guest host who's going to be popping in.
Who's that?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about it yet.
Yeah. Teaser.
But
That's a big tease.
But something about space, maybe.
Space. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Dinosaurs.
Space
Jurassic
bar.
Park?
I've heard it's the final frontier.
That's true.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'll just toss some of those hints out there, and but yeah, we will be meeting the day before Easter on Saturday in the afternoon, Eastern time, and we'll be having Kelly Evans with us, the writer of A Certain Man, and she's a great medieval scholar. She does she's actually has a series of books about a medieval monk, and she uses the bubonic plague as kind of like the start of the zombie apocalypse in her book.
That's a cool book. That's a cool series.
Yeah, and her story, Certain Man, it's actually I don't think it's really a spoiler to say who it's about, is it? I mean, that's not the
No.
It's about Rasputin. So if you are interested in Rasputin and that kind of legend that he was, or his legendary death and stuff like that, it's gonna be great. We're gonna be playing some Tetris on here, and our Russian dolls, and we'll have our little fur hats. And
JM's scoring of that, by the way, is retarded. It's awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me choose a different word. I'm sorry. It's awesome, man. So,
I can only imagine. That's exciting because like she's a great writer, and she's written The Northern Queen, which is about like the Danes and the Vikings and all that stuff, which as a big fan of the Viking show and all that stuff, it's awesome. Plus, the books that you mentioned. So I can only imagine how she knocked this one out of the park. So that'll be awesome to listen to.
Oh yeah, it's going to be great. So we'll have a great cast there. The voice actor, I do believe, is Alistair Mackey, who is from Scotland. So actually Kelly Evans is Canadian, and Canadian, Canada will represent, Scotland will represent,
just like our illustrious guests this evening, the marquee.
That's it. And Alistair Mackey was the professor in that spider story. And then he was Todd in
he got blown up by the warden in the game.
Yeah,
the game show.
He was a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy that we killed.
Well,
good time.
Thanks again, man. I greatly appreciate all your time, man. I know Mr. Cummings with the NoSleepPodcast.com has so much going on. We greatly appreciate you not just taking the time to be a part of this episode, but for joining us. Seriously.
My pleasure. Genuinely. It's been a lot of fun. Great to be a part of it.
Yes, sir.
And I will say just one other thing. You mentioned the walls behind me being black. No. This is gray. I'm in a gray room right now.
Nice. I love it.
You heard it from Mr. Cummings himself, guys.
Gray rooms really did start with David Cummings. You see that?
He's in a gray room. Evidence right there.
Indeed.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much, everybody, for taking part. Does anybody want to just take their turns and say goodbye to everybody?
I just want to say thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. I love the gray rooms, love behind the door. I love behind the scenes stuff as a geek. I always watched behind the scenes stuff. It always fascinated me to know all the ins and outs and all the secret like set videos and kind of stuff like that. I always watched the extras on the DVDs. So this was always right up my alley. So it's a pleasure to have taken part and been a part of this episode. So awesome. Thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. Thank you.
And I'll say my thanks as well. Thank you, Jason and Brian, and thank you to Graham Rowat. He was the one who reached out to me to do this story, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So thanks to you all.
Hey, my mother would say y'all, David. That's where being a native of actually Maryland, Virginia area, we say y'all.
I see.
I say y'all as well. So
yes, sir.
I say yes because I'm from Pittsburgh.
You guys say a lot of weird things there.
In that.
Well, I wanted to personally thank not just you for being here for Behind the Door, but again for us who are here, David, JM, Brian, Dustin, MR. He was here for us a little bit. He obviously, we know he has some stuff going on. I mean, it makes sense, but just everybody that's here, but everybody that's also in the chat room. And then, you know what? The listeners who will hear this tomorrow or next week, thank you for taking the time to listen. I personally, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thank you. And our patrons, you're the best. Bane's coming. Love you. So thank you very, very much.
All right. JM, want to say goodbye?
Yeah, I'll just say goodbye. Thanks. Nice meeting everyone that I haven't met yet, and seeing all you guys. And like I said, it's so much fun being involved in this project. And besides the work that we put into it and the product that comes out, working with different people every week, whether they know they're working with me or not, it's just it's been a great experience, and I can't wait to keep going.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Behind the Door. We'd like to thank everybody that's been interacting with us in the chat room. I'd like to thank everybody that is going to be listening to us soon on the podcast as well. And just because I always end it with something that I always cut myself off with, I just wanted to let you know that Charlotte Norp is Raymond's.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.